ankles are so large. I mean, there's nothing dangerous about that.
Sure.
It's
how long do you need to do it for to get the benefits?
Oh, I think these are immediate benefits because
2 minutes or 10 minutes?
Oh no, you're doing this the whole night that you're asleep. Your ankles
Gotcha.
are elevated. If you wake up and you happen to kick the pillow out, it's not the end of the world. But the idea is that you don't want to be sleeping with your head above your ankles either. There is some evidence that when people travel on planes and they're sleeping in chairs, that's not equivalent to the kind of sleep they get when they're lying flat. Show that if you can get your ankles elevated a little bit higher than your chin, that's great. So
when you're sleeping?
While you're sleeping.
What's it do for you?
It increases the glymphatic clearance, and there's some data that it can improve function of the brain. The studies that are happening now that I'm aware of, I'm in touch with that group, are mainly geared towards people that have had head injuries, so concussion and TBI of various kinds, but they also are seeing interesting effects in typical folks that don't have any traumatic brain injury. So I put a pillow underneath my ankles when I fall asleep, and to get a little bit of that elevation. And then during the day, if ever you can't get a nap, or you are going to get a nap, put your ankles up on the couch and lie down on the floor. That itself can get some of the clearance of the glymphatic system.
And that helps you sleep better, or it helps you just clean out the system?
It helps your brain function better when you wake up from sleep.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what the data are starting to show.
Cool.
Some of the things I described, like the light viewing, is baked into the neuroscience literature, hundreds of papers, published papers. Some of the things like the glymphatic system is kind of cutting edge, it's on the way, but because the safety margins of raising your ankles are so large, I mean, there's nothing dangerous about that.
Sure.
How
long do you need to do it for to get the benefits?
Oh, I think these are immediate benefits because
2 minutes or 10 minutes?
Oh no, you're doing this the whole night that you're asleep. Your ankles are elevated. If you wake up and you happen to kick the pillow out, it's not the end of the world. But the idea is that you don't want to be sleeping with your head above your ankles either. There is some evidence that when people travel on planes and they're sleeping in chairs, that's not equivalent to the kind of sleep they'd get when they're lying flat.
Interesting.
Independent of all the other things that are happening. And we know this because there are great sleep labs at Stanford, School of Medicine, at UPenn, back east and elsewhere, where people actually go into a clinic and sleep either upright or at different angles.
Track it.
And they're looking at all this at the level of data.
Okay, so here's one for you. What's the best position to sleep? On your back, on your side, on your stomach?
Great question, and it really truly depends. And it probably depends on how hot you run. So I tend to run really warm. A lot of the cooling of the body occurs from the palms and bottoms of the feet, but also from the upper back and scapulae, because we accumulate what's called brown fat there. It's not the blubbery fat that's under the skin.
Right.
It's like a furnace. Actually, you can increase the density of brown fat by going into cold water repeatedly for 1 to 3 minutes several times each week.
Yes.
It means your furnace actually burns hotter. It allows you to be in cold temperatures more comfortably. Some really beautiful data just published on this. So I don't like to sleep on my back because I start heating up.
Start sweating.
That's right. So I tend to sleep on my side. I sleep in that, what is that? It's like soldier position. You know that?
Yeah.
But then again, there's some people that have shoulder issues and then they can't do that. I'm relatively flexible through my shoulders, not super flexible, so I can do that. It really depends. Now, of course, if you're sleeping on your stomach, how do you elevate your ankles? It starts becoming a little bit of, we are not just science experiments. And so you have to assume that you're not going to get everything exactly right. But keeping the room cool, keeping the cool being under a warm enough blanket, but then extending a hand or an ankle out so that you could cool off during the middle of the night, that's going to be good. Keep the room dark, although complete pitch black doesn't seem to be as good as having a little bit of light somewhere in the room. Okay. But you don't want a bright blue light or red light anywhere in the room that's going to wake you up. Some people like me have very thin eyelids, exceedingly thin eyelids. Some people have very thick eyelids. So some people are more bothered by a light in the room than others. It really varies. So you have to just tune things to your particular environment.